Hello and welcome. I'm Ize-Iyamu. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari resumes work on his return from a 10-day medical leave in the UK. Central Bank of Nigeria launches new foreign exchange trading platform. Naira closes at 280 to the dollar on day one. Money laundering trial of oil businessman Ize-Iyamu and 4 others by the EFCC stalls at the Abuja Federal High Court. And United Nations puts the number of displaced people worldwide at 65.3 million, an increase of 5 million from last year's figures. And in business news tonight, Nigerian stock markets closes negative despite the launch of a liberal FMDQ foreign exchange platform.
And on sports news tonight, Sports Reform Committee in Nigeria concludes first phase of restructuring program.
And from Abuja, I'm Ize-Iyamu. Ize-Iyamu wins Edo State's PDP election to emerge as the party's candidate in the September the 10th governorship poll.
The president has resumed work today after his return from a 10-day official vacation in the UK. President Muhammadu Buhari announced his resumption on his Twitter handle earlier in the day. A personal tweet, the president declared, quote, "This morning with Vice President Professor Oshibajo in my office. Good to be back at work," end of quote. The president arrived in Abuja, the nation's capital, yesterday evening around 5:30 p.m. He had travelled to the UK on June the 6th to rest and also see an ear, nose and throat specialist for an ear evaluation. Now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, is advocating for a more liberal and equitable way of distributing constituency projects in the country. According to him, legislators have been shortchanged in the implementation of constituency projects, as funding is often made available to projects cited at the constituencies of those in the executive arm of government. Mr. Dogara made the remarks at a forum on political representation and constituency intervention in Abuja.
And the Muslims among us say,
It is a conference of both states and federal lawmakers designed to brainstorm on the best ways to attract and implement constituency projects. First, the Secretary to the government decries the manner in which funds meant for constituency projects have been abused in the past.
It is also true that constituency projects have often been avenues for the embezzlement and diversion of project funds in the past. This has led to gross impunity, wastage, early decay, and defeat of the purposes of such projects.
However, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, urges the lawmakers to decide on a framework that will ensure that constituency projects are not viewed as individual lawmakers' projects.
The final point to make is to decide a framework that ensures that these projects are really constituency projects, not the legislators' projects. And I say this in view of the fact that quite a number of those projects that were started as constituency projects never complete once the legislator does not return to Parliament.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the House of Representatives says lawmakers have been disadvantaged over the years as funding is made available for projects in the constituencies of those in the executive arm of government at the expense of the legislators.
You discover that more monies are appropriated for projects in the districts or constituencies or the zones or the states where the key players in the executive comes from. And in most cases, if care is not taken by respective parliamentarians, you could spend 4 years in the House, in the State House of Assembly, or in the National Assembly without attracting one single project. And we believe that the goal of any government, especially this government of change, must be that of justice and fairness. So there's no better way to ensure this justice and fairness than to ensure that all constituencies enjoy on some kind of basis, roughly, equal patronage.
It is hoped that resolutions from this conference will strengthen the legal and institutional framework for effective management of constituency projects.
The relaunch of the interbank foreign exchange market on the FMDQ platform has increased liquidity in the market. In this report, our correspondent Bolaji Akinwale takes a look at the views expressed by analysts on the impact of the reopening of the market in the short to medium term.
Exchange rate will be purely market-driven, using the Thomson Reuters and FMDQ order matching system, as well as the conventional dealing book.
That announcement by the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, sets the ball rolling for the reopening of the interbank foreign exchange market. The CBN had closed its twice-weekly sale of forex through the retail Dutch auction system 15 months ago, after battling with an ever-widening margin between the value of the naira at the official market and the interbank end. Afterwards, the central bank sold on demand to banks. The operation of the reopened interbank FX market through the FMDQ FX trading platform is described as a right one, which is expected to drive liquidity as well as deepen the market.
With the market freed, so to say, it means enhanced liquidity will provide the capacity to pay for imports.
Well, what the CBN is doing now is to say they've appointed 15 banks to stand as the primary dealers for the FX market, basically, and they would sort of act as intermediaries between the central bank and the authorized dealers.
The immediate effects as well as the short to medium-term results of the relaunch of the interbank foreign exchange market is seen with the decision of the central bank to clear all the backlog of FX demand through spot and forward settlements. This is followed with a special secondary market intervention sales of the dollar at a marginal rate of 280 naira to the greenback.
We just saw indicative quotes, from all banks, and no deals were done. But getting to around 11, we saw Central Bank coming to ask all the banks to submit all their demand. So right then we saw a bit of spike in the market.
At the parallel market, the US dollar is sold for between 330 naira and 350 naira. Through the interbank FX market, the central bank plans to edge against volatility with the use of futures settlements.
The manufacturer, and this is something I've experienced personally as an analyst, walk up to me and say, look, this is a new year. Where do you expect the exchange value of the naira to go in the course of the year? If you tell me naira is going to lose value, then it pays me to go now to a bank to borrow money and buy so much FX in order to place order for my raw materials and other inputs for 9 months production cycle.
At the macroeconomic level, the interbank FX market is expected to positively affect government spending. The introduction of the interbank FX market is regarded as a bold step by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Analysts believe if the liberalized guidelines are followed, it would lead to the stability of the naira. Bolaji Akinwale for Channels Television News.
Joining me now to discuss the perspectives of what transpired across the market today is the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives, Mr. Bismarck Rewani. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening, Ijoma. Yeah.
And what a day to have you in the chair. We were watching the live trade tracking, from the terminals. Interesting it was. Break down what happened today.
Today was a milestone to the extent that the markets opened. And it kicked off. The marginal rate was 280, but what happened? 10 o'clock in the morning, the market opened. The spot market, first trades were at 255 naira, and the market went into action. In the end, the spot market closed with a total volume of $532 million. Then there was the auction. The central bank sold $3.48 billion in the auction. Total effect was $4.02 billion. Now, number of dealers, 21. What is the impact of this? The impact of this is the true value of the naira was found. Market opened at 255, closed at 281.95. The auction forward transactions were done at 280 to be delivered over 90 days. We went back into the drawing board to determine what is the PPP value, what is purchasing power parity value of the Naira, based on the price of goods in New York and the price of goods in Lagos. That turned out to be 299. To that extent, the level of overvaluation of the Naira came down to 6% from 50% in the past. So the market has fused into one. So what you had was in 2014, you had a market where the CBN was selling at 155, the interbank was 165, and the BDCs were selling at 170. Then in 2015, the difference was 199 to 375, and now it has come down to 280. Essentially, the impact of this is simple. It affects everybody. Everybody in the country was affected. Now, the Naira equivalent of what was taken out is 1.12 trillion Naira, which was mopped up. 5.45% of money supply. It's the equivalent of 4 months of FAC for all the states and the federal government put together. Today, commodity prices started declining because people were affected. From Kano all the way to Lagos, tomatoes dropped from 45,000 all the way to 30,000 naira a basket. Rice came down from 18,000 to 13,000 and is dropping further. Semovita came from 3,900 to 2,700. So inflation is coming down.
Let me just ask you briefly before you go there. Initially, when trade started, nothing much was happening, and it seemed people were creeping in, peeping, and then going away. And then you then saw the CBN announcement, and then everybody suddenly came up.
People had no confidence.
Yeah.
All right? They were tentative. Like, this is something that affects everybody. You know, the name of Mobutu Sese Seko, what it means in the language is that it is a cock that leaves no hen untouched. Everybody is affected. Okay? And that is what has happened. Now, let's take a look at what happens to the state governments. The state government's revenues are going to go up by as much as 93%. Why? 40% increase in the exchange rate from 200 to 280. Then the subsidies that we're paying on petroleum, which was deducted before the monies were shared, also comes back. So when you add the two together, it's 93% increase in state revenues, but also a 93% reduction in liquidity in the system. Effect neutral, but increases economic activity and will lead to further growth. Okay?
When you were also looking at the sentiment side, they said, okay, there will be increased liquidity, investor confidence. There were all the positives. Yes. But then you now saw the market cap down 9.88.
No, but those are speculators. Those guys went to the market last week thinking that foreign investors are going to run in and take them out. No, they were wrong. Foreign investors are going to take their time. They're going to be sure that Nigeria is not going to reverse this policy, and they are going to be consistent. And there's no doubt in my mind that Nigeria will not reverse this policy, because everybody is benefiting from this. Now let us go down to how it will affect you and I. The guys out there want to know how it will affect everybody. So the first set of people, PMS importers, the price at which they got foreign exchange today was 280 compared to 285, which was in the template. So there's room. If it appreciates, the price of petrol could come down. Manufacturers, forex rate clarity and certainty means that they carry lower inventory. Airlines clear the block funds, so the airfares are going to come down. School fees, more expensive. Many Nigerians will stay at home and the quality of schools will improve. Medicals, more expensive. Local subsidies will thrive. Traders and retailers, downward pressure on prices, so they bring down prices. The BDCs, who are patronized by smugglers, will have to find themselves.
And then let me ask you about that. Are they going to be shut out of the market continuously?
No,
what's going to happen to them?
No.
Yeah.
The unofficial market, that is the informal market in Nigeria, is a significant part of activity. 18% of GDP is retail and wholesale trade. These guys don't want to, they want to stay under the radar. So we recognize them. As long as they can pay the benefit taxes, that's fine. So they are either traders or smugglers. Traders, when you file your papers properly. Smugglers, I think the customs are going to deal with that.
So outlook now, yeah.
Now, the outlook. The futures market will start on the 27th of June. But right now it's heavily spot market. External reserves will decline, but will recover very quickly. It will decline to 22, but will build up because our trade and credit flows will be restored. Yeah. Supply and trade credit will be restored, I said already. State government bailouts will be unnecessary in the short run, but we will have to invest in infrastructure.
Right.
And in the end, the trade balance will improve. So all said, this is positive, and I think we can say congratulations to the government for at least doing the right thing, even though belatedly.
All right, MD, CEO, Financial Derivatives, always a pleasure to have you on the news at 10 tonight. And in part 2, after the break, self-proclaimed leader of the independent people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, asked the judge to disqualify himself from his treason trial. That's in a moment. To join us again.